Iris, if you want to start and just introduce yourself and when and where you were born and whatever you'd like to tell me about your childhood.
Well, my name is Iris Page, and I grew up in Ontario and lived on the farm, the more Grace Page on the Lake Road. And in my bedroom, when I got up in the morning, looked at my window, I could always see the water. So that's the basics. What can I tell you? I was like every other kid in the country and doing things, and went to the Tacoma School, which was 1.5 miles. I remember that walking. Had a brother who was 5 years older, so I had company the first year I went. And I stayed there. I lived there till I finished my university, so on in London, and then I went to Toronto. I don't know. What do you want to know about that place?
I'm curious because we're hopefully getting a schoolhouse added to the museum at Backus-Page House. A schoolhouse. We're hopefully saving an old church from outside of West Lorne and Rodney, and we want to turn it into a schoolhouse that we can do programming in. So maybe if you could tell us a little bit about the Tacoma School, what it looked like, and maybe who some of your friends were.
Yeah, well, it's still there, the Tacoma School. I think the old red brick. It was a one room schoolhouse. We had a furnace in the basement, and in wintertime it was sort of cold. There was just a rad that was in the main room. There was a small room off the big room, where if you had a headache or didn't feel well, there's a couch in there. But it was also the library. There was a, what do I want to say? I don't know what you'd call it, but it had glass doors at the top and wood at the bottom, and that held our library books. At one point when I went to that school, there were 10 people, but generally I think there were 15 when I graduated from that school. And lots of ground around it, and we had a baseball diamond and all that wonderful stuff. Yeah, 1.5 miles walk to school and 1.5 miles back, but nobody thought anything about it because a lot of kids walked. I walked for some neighbors were the Little Johns. That was our closest neighbors. And David was older than I was, and he was in grade 8, I guess, when I was probably in grade 1. So I actually had somebody to walk with the first year. I don't know.
What was your favorite books that was in that library?
Oh heavens, I didn't have a favorite book in that library. It wasn't a big enough library to have a favorite book. I remember reading Tom Sawyer out of there. The books were, I would be being kind calling it a library. There were a few fictional books there. I do remember reading Tom Sawyer, and I thought that was pretty good.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the Little Johns, but who were some of the other kids that you went to school with there?
Well, my cousins from the other side, 1.5 miles the other side of the school, Don and Jack Page, and the Hansfords, who lived across the street from them, or across the road. Bob Sims was there. He was older than I was, and he was there. I think Eileen was there the first year when I was in grade 1. Eileen, his sister, was there. I'm just remembering. And then, of course, all the people that lived in Tacoma. And down our way, there wasn't many. There were Little Johns and me that went to that school. There wasn't anybody else on that Lake Road that went. Yeah, that was about it.
Okay. And was the school used for anything else? After school in the evenings, did the community use it for anything?
Oh, the community, yeah. And not when I was younger, I didn't pay much attention. And when the war was on, and the women's institute in the Taconic area put on, I think it was Friday night. There was a Friday night dance and card party first, and then dance, and proceeds went to the war. And my brother was older then, and he played piano along with saxophone and 10,000 other instruments. And he and, oh man, who was in the band? Anyhow, there were three of them, and they played the music. And of course, there was a lot of square dancing, and that was somebody else playing the fiddle on that one. And that they were held quite often. And so kids my age, I probably was, well, when the war started?
39.
39. Well, I was only 7 then, but I was, so I suppose I was 10 or 12 when they were doing these things. I was towards the end of my time in public school. Yeah, that was a big thing. They, made money and sent it off to the war.
Do you know what they used the money for? Was it for care boxes for the soldiers that were
care boxes?
Yeah.
Care boxes, and then if they designated anything else. Yeah, that was a big thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you were 7, what do you remember about when they first declared war?
Not a lot. It was declared war. I think I was 739, right? Yeah. I remembered it as I got a little bit older, and the biggest thing I remembered, but there's a lot of my cousins that lived in Sarnia and Toronto and all over the place, first cousins, and we were very sort of, it's my mother's side of the family, very close. They all went to war. And one of my cousins from Toronto had been in Germany. He was a pilot, and he was one of the dive bomber pilots. And you guessed it, on his last trip, he got shot down. So I remember that. That sort of, it made, and Jack, before he went to war, he used to come every summer from Toronto and live at the farm. Then my brother joined up, but he joined up a few months before the war was over. But yeah, I just sort of grew up with the war, so yeah.
Do you remember, I know I've asked some other people, we didn't get to have it, but we were going to have an anniversary commemoration of VE Day, so when the war was declared over in Europe. Do you remember anything about
August the 15th? No, that was Europe. No, that was, yeah. What day was that? VE Day was August the 15th.
May 8th? Yeah. It was May 7th or 8th.
In August, you're talking about?
No, I think that was when the whole war was over.
That's right. August the 15th, my birthday, the whole world.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it was your birthday as well.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my gosh. What was that like then?
Well, it was an everyday thing, war was, in a sense. And looking back, I don't remember thinking, well, it was a very special day. Everybody was very happy. There was a lot of celebration. And to celebrate, we went 17 miles down the lake road to St. Thomas, which was the big city for us, and joined in with all the celebrations on the street.
And did they plan those celebrations, or was it just sort of impromptu? Everybody heard about it and congregated?
Well, it'd be more like that. It must have been some planning done. I don't know as it was on that day, but it seems to me it was on that day. And I think it was pretty impromptu. Everybody went. So whether restaurants just stayed open or not, I have no idea.
Interesting.
But I know there was restaurants open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But there were a lot of people, and there was music on the street, and there was street dancing. And
you did mention that it was your birthday. What did you usually do? What did you usually do for your birthdays?
What did I usually do for my birthday?
Yeah, yeah. Or what did your family do?
Oh, my mother made a big birthday cake for everybody that had a birthday, and then you'd get your presents at supper time, or when you had the birthday cake, or dinner time. I don't remember which now, but it was that time. Yeah, and yeah, a big cake, and you usually my grandfather and grandmother came for the dinner, or supper, whatever it happened to be. And then as I got older, I had a couple of times when I was, oh, I don't know, maybe 12, 13. I had a birthday party because it was in August, so it was always good weather out there. Yeah.
How many kids would you have to your party?
Oh, creepy! You're asking questions. You have to go way back. I don't know. 5 or 6, maybe.
Okay.
There weren't a lot of kids going to high school at that time when I
Yeah.
remember one of the forms, and I don't remember which one that was. No, I was in public school. In grades, when I was in grade 7, there were only 3 of us. So they combined 7 with 8. So there'd be 8 of us.
Mm-hmm. They have to do that now in some schools.
Yeah, I guess so.
No, Michelle reminded me, and I know we've talked about it before, but I don't think I recorded it, about the pilots that would you and your brother would watch.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Fingal Airport, I wasn't very far away from us, and it was a bombing and gunnery school in the wartime. And when in the spring, when Dad would be working out in the field, or we'd be out in the field, or the summer, part of their route was to come over that part of the land and then cut out to the lake south of us and drop their bombs out there as practice. Because I can remember lying on the lake bank cliff, the high cliff, watching them do it, and they couldn't hit anything. I remember saying to my brother, "We'll never win the war because they can't hit anything." Anyhow, that's so they got, and then they got to see Dad in the field, so they come down low, and they tip their wings as they do, and then go off again. Yeah.
No, these were pilots that you were from the neighborhood, right? They knew you?
Well, they didn't know us really, but if they fly over us enough to get to know people, they flew down pretty low.
Okay.
But they probably found out who lived there. It wasn't like we knew who the pilots were.
Okay.
We just got out and waved when they came. As soon as we could hear the sound of the plane, and we just all go out of the house and go out and stand on the lawn, and they got used to that. Yeah.
Now, I know that I've got some pictures of the house, of course, and the gardens were beautiful.
My mother was, I would, not because she was my mother, was the best gardener I've ever known. She could grow anything, and it was a gorgeous garden, and it was big. That big front lawn, 3 sides of it were in was a border, and the border was a good 4 feet about 4.5 feet deep. And she had an area where there were roses, and she had an area where there were dahlias, and she grew lupins when nobody in Ontario could grow lupins. And yeah, that was. We had a big front lawn, as I well know, because I had to mow the lawn and a big front boulevard. But her garden was exquisite, and it was well known. People would come out on Sundays, and there'd be a line of cars in front of the house, stop people out looking at the garden. And
And I
she used to show her at Wallacestown Fair. In those days, they had different things, and for the best flower and the best bouquet, and of course, guess who?
Grace Page won a lot of them.
Yeah.
No, you all went to the fair every year?
Pardon me?
You all went to the fair?
Oh, heaven, yes. It was the first 2 days in October.
Yep.
And it was the first day was for people to take the things into the drill shed to have judged and so on, and the horses and the cattle come in and all that stuff. And then the next day was the actual fair. And we used to have horse races on the track, and I'm sure the track is still back there.
The track is still there. Well, what else do you remember about the fair? Because I know that that'll be a popular topic with people in the area about Wallacestown.
The fair was great. My dad was on the fair board, and the thing I remembered about it ran 2 days. I mean, there weren't any rides or anything going on the first day. That's when people brought in whatever they were showing, flowers or grain or dogs or whatever they were doing. And then the fair was the next day, and you went that day. The judging was done on the first day, and then you went to see who won what. And the drill shed was large, and it was full of flowers and different types of grain, and who has the best wheat, and onions, and who has the best vegetables, and all that sort of stuff. But it was big. And before I forget, we used to have, after the fair, we had a dance in the drill shed at night, and that was quite a thing. A lot of people came with their tents and, sold hot dogs and stuff like that, and there wasn't a lot of craft around at all. But there were races, horse races, which were really great, and there was a lot of animals that were shown. Cattle and that sort of stuff, and all that judging was done the day before the fair.
Now we have a fair ambassador, and before that it was the fair queen. Did you?
We had a president. My dad was president one year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a fair board.
Yes, which we still have.
People were on the board. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember some of those people that he worked with?
Oh Lord, they were all people from the area, I suppose.
Yeah.
That were from farms. Some of the Pierces and the Little Johns. Harold Lidster, I think, was on it at one time. Yeah, it was all from people in that area.
Okay. At the time it was all gentlemen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so.
Something
and the other thing the fair had was that old house, and the women's group, institute or whatever, used to have a meal ready in that house. That was shacky thing right by the front entrance.
Oh, the little, we call it a gatehouse. It's kind of the fair board office now, but it's brick.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I can't imagine they'd get up a meal. It's so little.
Well, if that's it, when you come in through the gates, it's on your left-hand side.
That's the one. It's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they made meals and started serving at noon, and we're still serving at supper. Yeah. It was a big day of the year. Wallacestown Fair is coming, and then I can remember the year we got the merry-go-round for the first time. Oh, thought we died and gone to heaven.
I know. What was that like? Was it horses or different animals?
Yeah, it was horses on the merry-go-round, and it was the year my dad was the president. I'm so proud of him that he got that merry-go-round. Yeah.
How big was the lineup to ride that?
There was a lineup all afternoon. Yeah.
For some people, that might have been the first time they'd ever been anywhere with a ride.
Oh, I would think so. Yeah. It was a big coup. And of course, the horse races and stuff were good. People, Russ Miller, I think that was his name, from north of Dutton, had a bunch of racehorses. Man, I haven't thought about these things in a long time.
I know, but that's why we want to record them, so we can tell other people about, what the fair was like.
It was a very friendly fair, extremely friendly.
It's still called that. It's called the Friendly Fair.
Okay, good. Yeah. Because it was.
Yeah.
And it gave the opportunity for a lot of farm people to show whatever they wanted to show in that big drill shed, and it was big. So if it was flowers like my mother did, great. If it was vegetables like some farmers did, that sort of thing. If it was sheaves of wheat, you name it. And then there was an area where people could show stuff they have sewn and done, knitting and stuff like that.
Yeah. And they probably had quilts, because quilts are still popular now.
Yes, they did have quilts over there in that corner, right? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Now,
did your mom host any quilting bees or anything at your house?
Oh, lots of times.
Okay.
Yeah, that was through the Women's Institute or WMS or one of it. And they all took their turns, you know, and they'd have this, put the quilt up on the frame in their dining room, which was large. Yeah. It was there for a while till they got it all quilted. I never became a quilter. They tried hard to get me to be a quilter. Oh my God.
I can't sew on a button, so.
Well, do those tiny little stitches, no way. Speak up, Shelley.
Did you sit around though while the ladies were quilting though, and that
No,
would be when they'd be sharing neighborhood gossip?
no, no, that wasn't where I was welcomed at all. I mean, they were friendly and that was fine, but they were busy and go find something else to do. And I didn't want to anyhow. I wasn't interested. I prefer to be out with my dad doing something in the farm. I
And
was your typical farm girl.
okay,
I drove horses very early. And Dad was, when I think back, I was thinking about this, and that's the only thing I was thinking about to this. He had more confidence, at least that's how I felt it. And if I remember the first time I went to drive the team, the reins, we had the wagon behind us, and I remember being scared of these great big horses. And I maybe was, I don't know, 9, not any older. And he's very quiet voice, and you know, yeah, and that's how I was, and I became very much a farmer's daughter.
What about so you just said talk up, I will. What about the maple syrup? Wasn't Papa one of the only people in the area that made maple syrup, or am I wrong about that?
No, you're not wrong. John S. Pierce across the road made it, but he just made it for himself. But
mhm.
Dad was the only one that made it in any great quantity in that area and went to market. And that was a big thing in the winter. It was also a big thing financially for the farmer. And they sold it at $5 a gallon.
And I remember you telling me something about at one time there's a couple of years that were really lean or whatever. There wasn't a lot of syrup, and it went really high. The price went really high.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. It never came down. It went to $9. And Dad,
So your syrup that year, you still had a usual amount that your dad produced?
yeah, we had the big woods behind us, and we had a lot of hard maples on there. So we would tap, and I want to say 250 trees,
Mhm.
but I think it was that, if not more. But we would go through, and Dad would make the hole in the tree, and I'd bang the spout in. And once you got that up, then you had to hang them. Well, you hung the buckets on them, and you gathered your sap, and then you had to bring it up to the arch. And the old arch bits of it are still on the farm, I think, unless they've done away with it. And you put the sap in the big black pans and brought it to a boil, and eventually it became syrup.
Mhm.
And one thing my dad always did, he was always taking syrup off at 11:30 at night. I remember saying to him, "How come it's always this way? We're out here at 11:30 doing this." Anyhow, and then you took the syrup into the house and you put it. There's a big barrel tin thing there with a woolen piece of cloth, and they poured the syrup through that because it cleansed the syrup with whatever was in it, you know, from the trees and stuff. And it sat in that for a while, and then had to go into another one. You did the same thing, and then you could put it in the gallons and take it down to the market. It was a big job.
And this was all in the kitchen or in the woodshed at the back of the
No, no,
house?
no. This was in the house because the
Okay.
maple syrup has to be put on the stove and brought to a boil to get rid of any impurities in it. And it comes up in a foamy sort of way, and you do that twice. And that was my mom's job, so she had big wash basins, and I mean big. I don't know, 4 feet sitting in, you know, um, really big. You could just like my arms are wide apart, and that's about how big they are. That's not 4 feet, but
Okay.
and she'd put 2 of those on the stove, and you bring them to a boil, and you bring them and skim them, and you bring them to a boil again, skim them, and then put them on the back of the stove and put the other. When it gets cool, then you pour it into a big can that holds all this stuff and let it sit and cool in the pantry for them. And then from there it goes into the syrup cans, which hold a gallon, and that's what was taken down to the market in St. Thomas.
Okay. And is there, what kind of crops, I consider maple syrup a crop.
Cash crops.
What other crops did you have on the farm?
Cash crops, corn, beans, wheat, oats, hay. Yeah.
And then I think we've talked about chickens before, but if you can, I don't think I recorded it. So I know you had a chicken coop.
Oh, chickens were big up between the maple syrup that kept us alive, farmers alive in the morning, in the wintertime. We had chickens for the rest of the year. So you would get 500 little chicks. And it was around Easter time, and we had a colony house, which is a house that has a stove in the middle of it. And it keeps these chicks warm. And as they stayed there and got nicer towards spring, and they let them out, they started to grow. And eventually, when they got big enough, they became a chicken. So we always had a big chicken house full of chickens that laid eggs. And then we had these other chicks that growing up, because the chickens that lay eggs, they don't last too long. So we always had new chicks.
Okay. And then, so you sold.
They lay the eggs. You have to clean the eggs and all the gunk off them and put them in the crate and then take it out to Dutton. It was Miller-Page that ran the egg grading station. And I cleaned eggs till I looked like an egg. Because there were times when the hens are really laying well, we'd get a crate a day. And a crate was 3 dozen, 6, 9, 18 dozen.
Okay. And where was the egg grading station in Dutton?
Miller-Page, excuse me. It was straight down Dutton. It'd go through Dutton, and on the left-hand side, he was back before you made the turn at that church, at the Baptist church.
Okay.
Yes, back in there, he had his egg grading station.
Okay, so it's on just off Main Street.
Yeah.
What we call Main Street now. Okay. I lost my train of thought in asking questions. What other animals did you have on the farm? I know you mentioned the working horses.
Yeah, we had working horses, and we had cattle, and we had steers, and you know, in the spring, my dad would have to take the cows down to John Pierce for a walk and come back, and then eventually we would have calves, and the calves would go into steers, and then he would sell the steers. We milked the cows, and he had 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He had 6 cows, sometimes 7, but 6 usually. So the milk was brought in, and it was separated, and the cream went to creamery in Dutton. And he used to come around, that guy, and pick up the cream.
And that's Strathcona Creamery?
Yep, Strathcona Creamery. So that was my mother's pocket money.
Okay.
So now, when you separated the milk, and you got the milk and the cream, the milk part was used for feeding chickens and whatever.
Mom, I know you had pigs, right?
Yeah, we had pigs.
You had pigs?
And we got a lot of chickens.
But I love your story about the goat. You got to tell the story about the goat.
Which
Billy
story?
Goat. The one that Papa wasn't supposed to go
Billy
get a goat, and he came home with a goat.
What?
No.
Remember the goat? Yeah, you told it to me not that long ago. Right? He was supposed to get something else. He came home with a goat. Okay, he came home with a goat.
That. When he came, I was trying to think of what the goat did. Yes, Dad went to, you go to sales. They had sales, and farmers went to, anyhow. I've heard he wasn't looking for a goat. There was something he went to go to. Anyhow, when he came home, and we had a woodshed, and he banged on the door, and I opened the door, and he was standing here with this white billy goat. And my mother was just beside herself. Why he would spend money on a billy goat. Anyhow, the billy goat became a family. We tied him up to the snow apple tree, and he would go with the cattle, but and they managed to get along with each other. But he was sort of a useless thing, really. He had horns, tremendous horns.
Well, yeah, if you just have the one goat, there's no use for.
Well, no, that's right. He ate a lot of rotten apples for us, and
Didn't he feel bad for the goat or something? Isn't that why he got him?
well, that's why he bought him, yeah, because the goat apparently was all by himself and nobody wanted him. That sounded like Dad.
Yeah.
My mother's answer to that was, well, I don't want him either.
He rescued the goat.
He did, he rescued it. The goats could be nasty. This one had big horns. And it took a long time to get him so he'd be used to us. And my brother got on the back of him and rode him. I didn't ride him.
No, that sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I wanted to clarify something. You said that your dad would take the cows down to John Pierce's. So can I assume that John Pierce had a bull?
As a bull, yeah. So you
Okay.
paid in those days in the farming thing. He was closer than Little John's.
Mhm.
Little John's had one too. So I don't know what they pay. I have no idea. But that every now and then Dad would say, I'm going for a walk. So he'd see him get a hold of the cow, and away you go. And then before too long, we'd have calves, little calves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify because if we use this, not everyone's going to understand when he took a walk.
So he could breed the cow with Mr. Pierce's bull.
Bull. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you watched when the cow was ready to give birth to the calf. He had to be very careful because we only lost one calf. Calves will tend to, if nobody's there, get a hold of some hay or something and choke on them. Because like anything, they're a wee baby and they can't, So there were many nights he didn't go to bed too early, so everything was done. It was a great life. It was a great life growing up on the farm.
Well, it sounds like it because you still had, you had a community and school and.
Yeah, and my dad was. He always. I mean, I was driving a car when I was 12 years old. I could drive that car as well then, did as I got older. He always gave me confidence in stuff that I wanted to do. And if he said no, there was no point in talking to him about it later. But I can seldom remember him saying no about anything, except using the crosscut saw. He didn't think I could do that. Anyhow.
So that was the only thing you didn't get to do on the farm.
Yeah, that's right. And the axe was the other thing. I could sweat wood, but he was a little leery about that.
Any other things you can think of, Michelle, that?
Well, you had sheep too, right? Talking about the animals, you had sheep.
Oh, we had sheep, and we always had a pet lamb that became a pet sheep. Yeah. Pet goat in the woodshed when you're coming out of the house, and there's the lamb and the sheep in the woodshed. Yeah. I always said that.
Did Dad do his own shearing, or did he have somebody come in?
No, you paid a shearer to come in. And that's quite a thing to watch them shear the sheep. And then you bundled the wool and you sold the wool. Paid the man, but yeah, sold the wool. Yeah. So we had.
Go ahead.
We had sheep a good bunch of sheep, and the goat. 2 dogs, one outside dog, one inside dog. We had a collie outside and a Boston Bull inside. But they ran together, so the Boston Bull got the same size as the collie almost. But he was a great watchdog. Nobody get out of their car if he was out, and we didn't get out, until we came outside. He sounded, his bark was worse than his bite.
Since you mentioned having a guard dog, was there any worry about crime or strangers in the neighborhood?
No, we had a lot of road walkers, or whatever you want to call them. We didn't call them tramps. And they would, you'd see them walking down the road, and sometimes they'd stop and come in, and Mom would make a plate of food for them and have a chair out in the woodshed and maybe have something to eat. No.
And is this more during the Depression, or when was this kind of prevalent?
Well, I can remember. So I'd be between 10 and 16. So that's in the 40s.
In the 40s, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And did they kind of explain why they were?
No. They just knock on the door, and the back door, and you knew what they wanted.
Okay.
Some of them were talkative, some of them weren't. I don't ever remember her inviting anybody in the house, but there was a chair there was a comfortable chair in the garage, and she gave them something to eat and something to drink, and it's good.
Okay. So it was common then that this happened quite a bit.
Well, yes, and they get to know who did it. Not everybody would do that.
No.
So we had quite a few come periodically.
And would they be the same gentleman, or
I don't
different?
remember that so much, whether we got the same people or not. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't remember them talking in relation to that.
I just find it's interesting. It's the 40s. I guess I would have assumed it would be during the Depression, but perhaps they were back from the war.
Could be.
Yeah.
Now, the war was a big thing during that time.
I had someone tell me, it might have been you, but it might have been somebody else, that if you saw any of the soldiers out, because they might go to St. Thomas or be out, everybody would give them a ride, or
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Especially if you're going down the Lake Road, and they were Fingal on the Lake Road, and if they were going in, be on leave and going into St. Thomas or coming back, heaven just. Yeah.
And were there any parties or dances with the soldiers from the school?
No, not
Okay.
no. There were wartime dances held and things held with money that you came to send to the war thing, whatever they sent it to, but yeah, no.
And when did you leave Tyrconnell to go to school?
1949, I left and I went to university at Western in London, and I was getting my Bachelor of Science in Nursing, so we went a year there, and then I went into training in Victoria Hospital in London for 3 years, and then you came out and you had another year and a bit to finish up the degree. And that was fairly new to the Bachelor of Science in Nursing then, not now. Then. So that you had to have that to work in public health. And I went to Toronto and worked in public health.
And were there no options to work in our area, or you wanted to go to a bigger city?
Yeah. It paid better.
Of course it did. Yeah. It's a financial decision.
Well, and it gave you experience. I worked in Vancouver public health too. And I went out there for a couple of years, and then I came back. And, yeah. Have I left anything out, Michelle?
Well, I don't know. Depends. There's a lot of years in there.
I know, yeah. There's so much we can, and plus when I watch this back, I'll be writing down things like, oh, I should have asked this. I know there's
Well,
so much.
Like, what did you do for fun as a teenager? I remember hearing lots of stories about that, or you know,
Ooh,
yeah.
that's what
can't
we
hear
want to
you.
know.
What did you do for fun as a teenager? Can you hear me? Oh, I think you might be frozen. Oh, no.
Oh,
Here it is. You're all right now. What did
So,
you ask?
what did you do for fun as a teenager?
Oh, I'm not talking to you about that. Oh, yeah. What did we do for fun as teenagers? You know, as a young teenager, there were church. I went to the Wallstown United Church, and they had young people's, junior young people's, and that sort of stuff. But then when I got into high school, I mean, same thing in high school. They were party. We lived by the lake, so there were always summer, wiener roast things, and St. Thomas was 17 miles away, and that was where the show was. So you went to the show, but you always, your boyfriend had a car. Everybody had a car because there wasn't anywhere else. You didn't walk places. So St. Thomas was probably the city we went to most, or we did. House parties were not a big thing when I was in my teens. It was the odd one.
So, what was the first movie you ever went to? 'Cause you probably went to
Oh
a
dear
movie.
God.
Do you remember the first movie?
Huh?
Do you remember the
No.
first movie you ever went to?
Do you remember the one I first went to?
No, I don't, but I remember the first one I went to.
Well, I know. I'm just thinking. I
No,
went.
I don't know. I'm curious.
I know. I don't. We went to a movie. I was quite in age because I went with mom and dad,
Your first movie?
and it was to St. Thomas. That was the closest movie, and it was Bill. Yeah? I know when we went. Bill enlisted in the war, and the war is nearly over. I mean, as soon as he got old enough, whatever it was, it's 17 and a half or whatever, he enlisted. And that day, that night, mom was very glum, and dad said, we're going to a movie. That was a movie. And we went down to St. Thomas. Don't ask me what the movie was. I'd never been to it, but they weren't ones to go to the movies. Once I got older and was going out, go to the movies. But they weren't close. They were St. Thomas or Glencoe.
yeah, Glencoe had a movie theater.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
I don't know. Not sure
But
when
we'd go to
Theater started.
West Lawrence.
West Lorne
Well,
had
I
a
was
theater.
at,
I think it was
yeah, they
later.
did. It was later. Yeah. That theater was at 50. Because I remember coming home from university and going to the theater there with a local boy. Yeah. 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 So there you are.
Did they have the whole popcorn, candy, all that stuff at the theaters? Or did you just see the movie?
I'm just thinking about that. No, we just saw a movie. If you wanted popcorn, you had to go to St. Thomas,
Okay.
to the theater there. And I'm assuming that's West Lawrence Theater eventually got it, but yeah. Because we lived at the lake, there were in the summertime, a lot of bonfires and wiener roasts and get-togethers around the fire down at the water. And that was when I was old, like 14 or 15, and have so-called wiener roast, but so there you are.
Would they be down on the beach?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
mostly at Whitesides. Connell's Beach wasn't very good, but then I got to give this to my mother. When we were young, we were two fields away from the gully to get down to the lake where we lived, and so we crossed the road to go. And she would walk with us, and there were two big hills in between. Like there were two big hills in the grass part of the field, and then we'd get to the lake, and it's a mammoth cliff down there, walking down. And anyway, I got very used to it. But I think back, and she wasn't that young, and she hated swimming. She wouldn't go in the water, but she'd walk over so we could go. Younger.
Mhm. Now you mentioned Whitesides. There was a hotel called Whitesides,
Yeah, not my day.
and it was already gone. We've got one picture of it, but we're all trying to figure out what the layout of that area was. So I know we've only got a couple minutes left because I have another phone call to do.
Okay.
But because it's what we call Daytona now, right? Is where Whitesides was.
Yeah.
Do you remember kind of how far or what the layout of that area was like?
Yes, I do. Would have went to Whitesides, and you went down the hill to
Okay.
get down to Whitesides and got in there, and the parking lot was there. There wasn't anything really. You walked over to the bridge and went to the water. On the left-hand side, there was a building, but I don't have any idea what that building was. Small building, but there wasn't anything really there.
So no cottages.
Well, yeah, the cottages came later. Yeah, I'm just talking about.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, the cottages started to spring up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the 50s and 60s, I think.
Yeah,
cottages.
yeah.
Yeah, but this Whitesides Hotel is quite the mystery of exactly where
I don't
it
know
was.
where the
Yeah,
I don't know where the Whiteside Motel would be unless it was further up somewhere.
yeah, and we have one picture of it. So I'm up to
Right.
ask anybody if they know anything about it.
Yeah, no.
That's all right. Well, we're at 2:30, and I don't want to tire you out either. If you think of other things, let me know. I'm gonna review this, and I'm sure that I will have more questions
Fine.
that I'll put together, and then maybe
Michelle probably
chat.
can answer most of them.
Yeah.
How are
So
you?
maybe chat again at some point.
How are you, Michelle?
I'm good, Mom.
All right. That's
Did you learn anything new, Michelle?
Pardon
Really,
me?
most of these stories. A couple of little things, a couple of details. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, she probably knows more than some that I haven't said here. My brain is, and I don't mind admitting, my brain's not quite as sharp as it was 10 years ago, but it still works for me.
Mine's not as sharp as mine was 10 years ago.
And that makes me feel better. I'm coming east this summer, God willing, and the virus disappears.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Maybe we can chat in person too. And
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry, what's your first name again?
it's Angela.
Angela, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've got come out to the museum. We've got a whole new building.
Where is that?
Oh, it's to the west of the office, the little carriage house.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, behind that little bee house that we have for the honey house,
Right.
we put in a 3,000 square foot agricultural center.
Good.
Yeah. So, and then potentially after this year, we might have a schoolhouse. So we're working on that.
Well, good on you.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I will let you both go. And then I'll go through this, and I'm sure I'll have some follow-up questions.
Well, give me a shout.
Yeah, we'll try and record again once I put together a list.
Okay.
Nice
All
to
right.
meet you, Angela.
Yes, I know we've talked by email, but never seen each other.
Yeah, so there we go.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Good
right,
to see you,
well-
Mom.
Bye, Michelle.
All right, I'll let you both go, and I appreciate you both your time for the afternoon, and we'll chat again.
You're welcome, and thanks for your help, Michelle.
No problem.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. All right, bye.
See you later. Bye-bye. That must have been boring.